Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. And we are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on a wonderful viewer question. And that is, how can you detect or spot a narcissist? How can you get this sort of trait on your radar so you don't fall for the trap? You don't fall for the charm. You don't fall for someone who is ultimately going to take advantage of you. And so I really want to zoom in and focus in on that topic. So it's important to understand that, you have boundaries and standards when you talk about a narcissist. But oftentimes these are not enacted, enforced, or in place if you've been victimized by someone like this. So the narcissists are very good at teaching you what your boundaries and standards should be. But how do you detect a narcissist? How do you get the red flags? How do you see the red flags and then know what to do? How do you back off? How do you say no thank you? How do you protect yourself from a narcissist? Well, a narcissist is plagued by someone who has a pathological sense of self-importance and coupled with a lack of empathy. So if we just look at that and we keep it real simple, a pathological sense of self-importance. So right there, that leads to grandiosity. It leads to, exploitive behavior, which means they take advantage of others for their own well-being. And because of lack of empathy, they don't care really on the outcome of how it impacts or hurts somebody. It leads to entitlement. So someone who feels like the world owes them something. You owe them something. You owe, them. And so you should always be basking in what I call is like their eternal me. Everything is always about them. Everything is always about them. They can't ever stop for a moment and ask about you. How are you? How's your day today? They don't want to sort of engage with you. They want to trap you into always giving them the attention. Drop what you're doing. Look at them. Listen to them. Go, ooh, ah, oh my God, you. OMG, let me see about you. Let me hear about you. Let's talk about you. You. And then oftentimes people who have a void or a need for relationships, and then this person comes along and, they're trying to be, basically, kick ass and take names. The narcissist will kick ass and take names. In other words, they just want more supporters. They just want more people to be part of the gap. They always want people who will concede and then support them. Like, you are so this, and then everybody else is down here. You are so this, you're on the mountaintop, and everybody else is like just invisible, and then anything we can do to support you, drop everything for you, turn around and be there for you, whether it's giving them gifts, attention, time, accolades, opinions. These people are always fishing for compliments. It is always about them. They always need this external validation. And it's just, so these people, they might get into theater, they might get into singing, dancing, stripteasing, whatever it is, or in their job, they just want to be the big, loud, pushy, they're in it for all the sexiness, the sexy manager job, the big investment banker guy who's, always about him and talking about his clients or talking about his, his business. And you're like, can we just chill and relax and like not talk about like how great you are for a moment, or how tough you've had it? Like, can we, just watch this movie and not have to hear about like how, your lunch was $150 and you were overlooking the ... gorge. Like, can we just stop talking about you? You can detect a narcissist because it's all about them. You're just like an audience. They're always looking for an audience. And then, they won't ever really sort of engage with you. You're just there like as, oh, well, you should be so, their attitude is like, you should be so fortunate as to be able to bask in my presence, is basically what it is. And like, You're like, but you're, working the fries, like at the fast food restaurant. In other words, like, they're trying to put up this big narcissistic spotlight so that you don't have to see or acknowledge or validate like their flaws. It's all to cover up an insecurity. Perhaps it was rooted in their childhood, where they were told, all sorts of things, and they have this neediness for attention. But rather than, defining it as something as, you have to have good sportsmanship, or you have to learn to get along, or, you have to learn not to brag, or this doesn't make you better, whatever it is, there's this disconnect between like, I am better, and everybody else. We're going to make sure that that, there isn't room enough for the both of us. There is no we, there's only me. And so when you get into relationships and you begin to listen, and you don't dive into relationships, the problem with the narcissist and the psychopath relationships is that people tend to dive in like head first. Maybe it's because you were younger, maybe because you just recently had a breakup, maybe it's because this person, was so endearing, or, they kind of love bombed you, and you feel like you would be a better person if you were to relate to this, so there's this sort of weakness that they sort of prey upon, or, I would be a better person if I had you. So there's like there's this broken foundation within you a little bit. So like unconsciously you then, fall for it. And then, so in other words, wow, well, I'm a better person if I can just be supportive of this person. And then there's this codependency where you then become sort of defined by your dependence on them. In other words, you're not enough on your own. You're only enough if you're with them. So that's why I talked in the previous video about how important it is for you to then get a solid foundation physiologically, neurologically, where you are good enough on your own. You don't need to compromise yourself to be in a relationship. So if you detect that you're having to compromise a lot, you can't talk, you can't share your opinions, you're always looking at their phone, you're always, they always want to show you their phone. They always want to distract you. They always want to, have you chime in and get your opinion about them. And there's no two-way street. So you can detect a narcissist by this sort of, assumptive, behavior that like, well, because, because of me, like, you should just pay attention, because they have this entitlement. So they just sort of throw out a net for people and then just sort of try to scoop them up. And then that's their narcissistic supply. The people who can go, ooh, ah, you're so this, you're so that, your hair this. They're always looking for the validation. Someone who is not narcissistic, they don't need that validation. Someone who is healed from narcissistic abuse, they realize that they don't want to be narcissistic supply. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt, got the scar, got the tattoo, got the mug, whatever. You kind of know, you kind of see, but it's very difficult to identify a narcissist if you're still sort of in that hurt mode. In other words, there are a lot of people who find themselves attracted to this type. Bad guy, bad girl, the narcissist. They find these people thrilling, exciting. It makes life adventurous. Well, until, you've got your ass whooped and you've got, a bundle on the curb, and you find that this person is not really there for you, it's not so thrilling. It's not so fun anymore. It's always fun until somebody gets hurt. How much more hurt do you want to go? How much more emotional scarring do you want to add? Do you want to, dig the hole a little deeper? You have to ask yourself, and if you said enough is enough, once you get the time and space, you'll be able to see, wow, that person was not in my best interest. So you can identify a narcissist because they're okay with things not being in your best interest. They know better, but they're okay with you being bumped, hurt, wounded, cheated on, lied to, they're kind of like okay with that. And then, and then if you find yourself then having to make amends, and then like you're having to sacrifice too much, and then especially when you get into the malignant part, all of a sudden then you're brainwashing to think, well, it really is my fault. I really am not good enough. I really did make a mistake. So there's this crazy making. And then there's the feeling, well, maybe I am in the wrong. And so that's when you're in the delusion. You're living the illusion. You're in the psychopathic trap. It becomes very malignant. It becomes pathological. So there's all sorts of different, spectrums of this type of individual, male, female, where they live, but the narcissistic disorder is a very, very real thing, a very hurtful thing. And whether you want to call it a mental illness, a personality disorder, a tough person, a toxic vampire, whatever you want to call it, put whatever label you want it. I mean, you can call it whatever you want. But the issue is you can detect it once you sort of see, am I feeling less than around this person? Does this person, once I engage in them, do I have the feeling, that I am being made out to be less than, unimportant? I'm not as smart as, I'm not as intelligent as, I'm not as pretty as, So those sort of corrupt people emotionally, you can feel it. So to detect a narcissist, you can see how this person makes you feel. You can talk to a C-level executive, but they don't, if they don't make you feel less than, you're in the presence of an integrity person. You can always tell by how you feel when you're around them. Do you feel that you're sort of feeling that there's a vibe that they put out? So when we talk about your vibe attracts your tribe, your vibe is your energetic vibration. And, it is your thoughts which create your impact your emotions. And you can feel the energy around somebody. They don't tell you this in kindergarten. Hey, let's see how Tommy's energy is today. Let's see how Annie's energy is. I mean, they don't teach you this in school. I mean, it's lessons of life. Like, the lessons of life are extremely, extremely important that you pay attention to, and like you get like your wake-up calls. That's why it's so important I discuss, your lessons learned. These are your lessons, like you're going to learn throughout your life. It's like, just because you graduate kindergarten, second grade, 8th grade, whatever, it doesn't mean that you stop learning or stop becoming educated by life, but you can really get a lot more of it and protect yourself if you look at your lessons learned. And with time and energy, and experience and focus, and then desire in living your purpose, because you can also detect a narcissist because your life purpose seems to always then be about them. And you have this feeling that like you must always do or prepare or make yourself to fit in with them. And so you become then centered around this person versus centered around your own life purpose. And this is very disempowering. So someone who makes you feel also very disempowered. They're sort of always pointing out your flaws. They're always hypercritical. They're always trying to see, push your buttons, and blow up, make a mountain out of a molehill. Trying to make you feel like you're walking on eggshells. Point you out for being wrong. Point you out for what you're wearing, point you out for how you handled something, make you feel sort of, less than. They're always trying to point out your flaws. See, the narcissist will brighten their own light by dimming others. So in other words, they'll get more of this spotlight. Just think of a spotlight that goes out and fills an entire stage, with only them in it, and it's because they've darkened others' presence. They've made them feel less important. They've made them feel flawed. They've disempowered them so their light doesn't shine. So if you feel like you're in the presence of a person, a job, a family, a community where you can't shine, you can't sort of be at your best, you can't live your potential, you can't live your purpose, you're not living on your strengths. You are, always sort of on a back seat, a back burner. You know, you're always having to put up and shut up. You know, and feeling like, you know, you don't really belong. You can also detect if you're in the presence of a narcissist. And really, what I feel is, you know, businesses, organizations, communities, countries can have very much psychopathic and narcissistic influence from the top down, meaning it's pervasive on you know, specific areas. Like you hear about all these different governments, dictatorships, etc. You know, these people who wipe out, you know, whole vast, you know, areas of people, you know, the genocide, you know, etc. So it's very important then to understand that this can be on an individual or other basis. So, you know, where you are meant to feel less than. And so, the narcissist, you have to realize that if you look at it like an emotional bank account, your emotion, you can also detect this when you feel like your emotional bank account is constantly at zero. I don't have any worth. I don't have any value. Like all the value is always about them. So the narcissist, once again, they have this pathological sense of self-importance coupled with a lack of empathy, meaning they don't really see and validate others. They don't acknowledge, you know, they don't have a sense of respect of others. You can never feel as equals. There can be some very, very, you know, there can be leaders who acknowledge and validate and have appreciation for others. That's a higher energy vibration. The narcissist, despite their flash, their cash, their whatever, you know, there's all sorts of, there's all sorts of people who have the big car, the big shoes, the big watch, the big ring. You know, it's just, they're very pretentious, they're very snobby. It's all about them. And all they can see is themselves. They can't see other people. They have this wall of narcissism around them that they hide behind. But, you know, believe it and know that underneath that is an insecure person who has, you know, commitment phobia. They can't really attach to people. It is thought that narcissism is an attachment disorder, so they don't really get on very well in relationships. They might have a lot of relationships of convenience. In other words, they marry for money or marry for a place to live or marry for their kids. Like, so there's not this healthy connection. Yet on the outside, it can appear like they're the it because of whatever, because of the this, because of their sense of entitlement, their exploitativeness. They seem powerful. They seem like they're authority. They seem like they're of influence. Seem is the operative word. But once you get a little bit closer, you see that there's a darkness, you know, and a dis-ease, an unhealthiness, which is very unattractive. So despite them, you know, thinking, you know, or putting out there that they are attractive, it might be only externally. So there's something internally which is very distractive, you know, it detracts. There's something energetically about them which is very unattractive, meaning unappealing, unbeautiful. You know, they might say, you know, this person is ugly on the inside. Well, you might feel this. That's a good way for you to understand a narcissist, and you will begin to understand this, and it'll kind of coagulate for you emotionally once you go no contact from these types. And actually, if you've been hurt by these individuals, it's very important for you to step away from relationships so you can get this awareness within in this safety and security and have the boundaries and standards so you can enforce these and implement these and employ these so you don't stay in that same space. It's your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace out. Love you.